Yeah, hi, my name is Alan Justice. That's sort of an ancestral name for me. It was my great grandfather's last name. And so I thought I would start honoring my heritage that way. But anyway, Yogi Berra, he's one of my favorite guys because of his really, those quotes of his just knock me over every time. But one of his favorites of mine is when you come to a fork in the road, take it. And so once upon a time, I came to a fork in the road. That fork in the road came in December 13th, 1983. You see, I am an alcoholic. I have been a practicing alcoholic from 1959. I got really heavy at the last 10 or 15 years and ended in 1983. In 1983, I walked into a liquor store named York Liquors. I was in South Florida, and I used the last of my money to buy a pint of Canadian whiskey. I took that Canadian whiskey and I drank about half of it. And so what happened is after about half of it, there was the fork. I don't remember much about the 4 or 5 hours after that. Suddenly it was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was standing talking to some guys, and it was cold, and I was going, "Oh my God, what's going on?" Now, I did not choose a particular fork that night. I didn't know which direction to go, where to go, because quite frankly, I was out of money. I didn't have a place to live, and I was living on the streets. And so I learned to panhandle and all this good stuff or bad stuff, whichever way you want to put it. And so I went through the day, and I counted 1 day, 2 days, and I kept counting days. I didn't realize it was December. I didn't realize it was Christmas. I didn't realize it was New Year's. I just kept going day by day. Eventually, I got some help. My pride was smashed. And so I called somebody, and this somebody helped me, got me into a halfway house, and that's where I resided for the next 9, 10 months. Because of that, I had the time to reflect upon my life. Which direction did I want to take? Did I want to go in the direction of all the despair, the anger, the terror, the literal hell that alcohol had put me through? Or did I want a different direction? That direction would be a direction that it took a lot of hard work, has for a long time. But every time I set another foot forward, life becomes more worthwhile and better. One of my major things in life that I had to overcome was the forgiveness part and the trusting part. You see, I didn't trust anybody, including myself. And I for sure couldn't forgive myself for putting myself through all this nonsense. It had been a miserable childhood, miserable teenage years, and miserable as an adult. I failed at everything, including life, and I failed myself miserably. And if you want to go a step further, I failed God. So I started off on this journey, and I was thinking about forgiveness and trust and all of that. So I figured out along the way over many years a little bit of something about trust. You see, people will break your trust. You'll break your trust in yourself. You're going to say, well, today I'm going to jog, say, a mile. And it's a New Year's resolution that you're going to do all this stuff, and you don't. So you've broken your word. You've broken your trust in yourself. So what do you do? How do you do that? Well, the first thing you have to do is be respectful and supportive. You support, your quest. You support, you respect the direction that you're going to go in. But most important of the beginning part of that is to be honest and to be consistent. So if you're honest and you're consistent, okay, you don't promise people things. You don't say, well, I'm going to do this for you, and then something comes up and you can't do it. You simply do it. If somebody says, how about coming over Saturday? We'll have a little fun. Just simply go. Just simply go. Okay? I never promise anybody anything anymore, except I have some sacred promises that I have never broken in all the 40 years that I have been sober. And I never promise somebody that I'm going to be a place that I know I can't be. So this honesty is a very important component. Soon as you break that honesty oath, your trust diminishes. The next thing you want to do is be open and vulnerable. Sometimes you've got to understand that you're going to have to ask yourself a question. What am I willing to risk for this? How much of myself am I willing to put forward? You see, most of the time when we get into a relationship, we have this, we're going to risk something. At the very least, we're going to risk being hurt mightily, because the expectation of the relationship may not match and things may go sour. But if you're honest with yourself and with the person, and you're consistent with how you act, and you also don't try to be something that you're not, because sooner or later, the phony you is going to fall away and you're going to have to be you. So be honest, be consistent, and be yourself. And the other part about this that comes the interesting part, is the forgiving and understanding part. So you have this relationship. Maybe it's your boss, maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your children. Who knows what it is, but it's something. And they do something that mightily upsets you. You get angry. Okay, what is that anger based in? What fear is based in that? See, fear fuels the anger. And anger's denomination, the bottom line of it is fear. What are you afraid of? Take, for instance, you're driving down the highway, 65 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour, whatever, and somebody cuts you off. That person cuts you off, and you're hopping mad. In my old days, I'd flip him the bird and start, shaking my fist at him. And the day came when I noticed I wasn't flipping the bird above the dashboard. I was flipping the bird below it. And I said, hey, I'm making progress. I was still angry, but I wasn't showing it. But why were you angry? Why was I angry when I got cut off? Because I was afraid. I was afraid it was going to cause an accident. And not only I would get hurt or even killed, or maybe the next guy would get hurt or killed. So that fear manifested in anger. So say, for instance, you have had a lousy childhood, and your parents weren't exactly the Von Trapp family or something, and you got pushed aside all the time. You weren't the favorite child, or you were abused, maybe physically abused, maybe sexually abused, maybe verbally abused. Verbal abuse is by some people is horrendous, because it diminishes the value you place in yourself as a human being. So what I'm thinking is, is that once in a while you've got to say, okay, I have to forgive. The first thing I've got to do is forgive. Well, who does that benefit? The person that you're forgiving, it doesn't benefit at all. Not at all. It benefits you because you lose the anger. You start to look at things in a different light. That anger and the fear of it all dissipates. You lose that thing that says you have to justify your life by what they say. That starts to go away. Is this an instant process? No. Most of the time, people are not willing to forgive, but that only hurts yourself. Okay, so now, say you have done something. Well, now you're blaming yourself for a lousy relationship with your spouse, your kids, your parents, your boss. So what do? You start by forgiving yourself. And then you start by demonstrating, not asking for, but demonstrating and rebuilding over a period of time and actions that lead to them retrusting you. And again, you have to be honest with them. You have to be consistent with them. You have to be open with them. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be attentive and receptive to them. Listen to what they say, okay, and understanding of them. You have to demonstrate these qualities because as these qualities increase in you, you're going to get better and better at demonstrating trust. It's not going to be an overnight change in your personality. This is going to take some effort. And you're going to have to be completely aware of what you're doing. Because if you're not aware of what you're doing, and if you revert to your old ways for possibly being verbally abusive to somebody, or physically abusing to somebody or whatever. What you have to do is start to change yourself so that that person sees a different you. Now, there are times when it may not be the best idea to start to trust somebody or even to trust somebody and add forgiveness to it. If it entails, say, physical violence towards you, where they maybe try to hurt you badly, even kill you or something like this, it may not be the best idea. It might be the best idea to simply stay away from them, stay away, just stay away. Don't let yourself get dragged down into their pit. The other one may be like sexual. And that's a hard one. That's a hard one. That's one where the individual that was abused has to really look at their soul and say what they want to do. You can forgive them, but never forget. Forgiveness doesn't mean you're forgetting. What it means is you're going to forgive, you're going to put down the anger, you're going to put down the burden, but you're going to remember so that you don't get into it again and they can't have the opportunity to do it again. And this thing about honesty, if they do it and try to do it again, are you going to be honest enough with yourself and the authorities to report it? So there's a whole panacea of things that you have to take into consideration. But I have found through the years that whoever I have had a resentment towards, good, bad, if they were good people, bad people, didn't matter to me. If they had abused me verbally, physically, sexually, I have forgiven them, but there are cases where I just stay away from these people. They are not to my benefit. There are other cases where I have forgiven them. We have mutually talked about it and developed a trusting relationship and became friends. We have taken a tragedy of the betrayal and turned it into friendship. If somebody, for instance, cheats on their spouse, I don't know how you rebuild that trust. I just don't. That is an individual thing. Are they willing to prove themselves? But the person that they cheated on will always remember that betrayal. So that is one where the two people have to sit down and really hash it out, really talk about it. Somebody on the outside, I doubt it, or I have my misgivings about them being able to affect any kind of conciliation. It has to come from them. So if you are at that crossroads, there's one road that's going to lead right back into destruction, and it'll eventually probably kill you. Might take a long time. It's like the guy that would cross the street, and he not waiting for the light, not waiting for the walk sign to go on. He simply crosses, and he gets away with it. And he gets away with a second and a third and a fourth time. But someplace along the line, he ceases to get away with it, and he gets smacked, and he's down for the count. Just because you get away with it once or twice doesn't mean you'll always get away from it. There's always a price to pay for not being kind to another human being. So, what is the end result of all this? The end result is a lot of work and a love that is hard to describe. I can't, because I don't have a vocabulary big enough to do so. But that love comes from a power that created the universe. That love comes from a power that said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." That's a heck of a power. You might want to see what he said. You don't have to say, "I'm going to accept and I'm going to do this and that and all that. I'm not religious." Well, I'm not suggesting religion. I'm suggesting a relationship. But you have to look it up. Look up what he said. There's books that say are red letter, where you can read what he said. Read what he said and then make up your own mind. I did, and I do follow him every day of my life. I'm 75 now, and not in bad shape for a man my age. I haven't had a drink in 40 years. I haven't had a cigarette in 38. And a myriad of other things that were destructive to me. And I can't, and it's not something I did by my willpower. It's something I did because it just fell away as I traveled that path. I have no desire for a drink anymore. I can't imagine smoking a cigarette. I can't imagine some of the other stuff, including ice cream. Wouldn't you know it? So try it out. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. But if it doesn't happen instantaneously, remember, it takes time. It takes effort. Okay? Find somebody that can mentor you in those problems. There's a lot of people out there following that course, that have wisdom to share and want to give it away. Anyway, until next time, I'm going to be signing off, and I hope this wasn't too bad because it was my first live one. Anyway, have a good day, everybody.